Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So when you're here, say hi. Let me just make sure I'm not crooked. When you're here, say hello. And I would love to know who's joining me today. So let's see. It says comments will appear here. Let's see who is going to join me. So my name is Deanna. Hopefully you know that because you are on my page right now. So let me know when you are here. Hopefully this thing is going to work. And we are going to talk about hand floreos today, but I wanted to talk about a few things before we got there. So when you're here, say hi if you don't mind so that I can see that you are joining. I'm not seeing any comments so far, but we'll just get started in just a couple of minutes. It's the first Tuesday talks that I'm doing, so I'll give everybody just a couple of minutes to join in. Looks like we've got a couple people joining. All right, so I'm just gonna jump right in. When you're here, say hi. Hi, Nora, thanks for joining. Okay, so today is the very first Tuesday Talks, and that's a name that I might not stick with. You all know me. If you don't, you need to know that I like cheesy titles and catchy names. So Tuesday Talks is what I'm calling this series. It's basically just me coming on here every Tuesday at noon Pacific time to talk about a different subject. And it could be technique, it could be anatomy, it could be life in general, it could be energy or chakras or yoga or whatever. So whatever basically I'm inspired by based off of what I'm seeing with my different students and online and all of those things, or what's happening in the world. So hi Nora, hi Sharon, it's good to see you on here. Hi Christine, I have an email from you and I will reply. So it's really, really great to see you all on here. So yeah, I'll be live every Tuesday with a different topic. Today, I wanted to talk about Floreos. So some of you that are on here are actually in my spring training course. Hi, Edna, speaking of. And we worked on Floreos last week, I believe. And I just really, really love fundamentals. And I love getting into the nitty-gritty details of it all. And I don't often get to share this stuff publicly just because everybody's doing their own thing. And so I tend to share a lot of information in my classes, but there were a couple of revelations in the classes and I thought, gosh, this is something that I really want everybody to know. A little bit about what I love to do and about myself and about my teaching is I absolutely love it when people realize that they can do something that they previously thought that they couldn't, or they realize something new about their bodies and they all of a sudden become really proud of themselves or love a part of themselves that they didn't maybe love so much before. I just really love it when people can connect deeper to their bodies, their minds, their dance. And so when I see people getting excited about something like a hand floreo because all of a sudden they can do something that they didn't think that they could do before, or they thought they were doing it wrong, or whatever the case may be, I just love when they get happy about it. So we're going to talk about hand floreos today. So what in the world is a hand floreo, right? So a hand floreo looks like this. We're just going to talk about regular hand floreos today. The word floreo actually in Spanish means to bloom, or Spanish Latin, to bloom or to flower. So many of you probably know the word flora, flower. So floreo is to bloom or to flower. So I love that definition because if you think about the hand then as a flower, and then maybe part of it you think about the flower blooming, it really brings a nice visual into the hand floreo. And of course the hand floreo is inspired by flamenco, and that's a style of dance that definitely influences what we do with Fat Chance belly dance style. So you might have seen flamenco dancers do these really strong arm and hand movements, and so that's where a lot of our stuff comes from for arms and hands. And how it got introduced to Fat Chance belly dance style, so it's my understanding, Jim Murdoch, who actually was quite influential in our dance style early on, who's a really good friend of Carolina's, he actually came up with the term Fat Chance belly dance. So he actually was telling Carolina about hand floreos, and anyway, his influence is what inspired Floreos to be used and added into a lot of the arm movements. And then that coupled with Rena Rawl really getting into flamenco. She's a former Fat Chance Belly Dance dancer and instructor. So those two combinations really brought in Floreos into our style of dance. And so now you see Floreos in a lot of what we do. Propeller turns, corkscrew turns, tuck-seams, body waves, wraparound turns, a ton of movements. And what a lot of people don't think about or don't maybe even know is that a Floreo isn't just an embellishment on our movements. Many of the movements, they are just maybe like arm circles and sweeps, just making beautiful Floreos for the sake of adding lovely embellishment. But our Floreos can actually serve as a communicator to the people that we are dancing with. So as many of you know, especially if you dance this style of dance, we dance group improvisation. And our hands and what our hands and our arms are doing are communicating to our dance partners what we're doing, along with other body parts, definitely. But if you think about the early days of Fat Chance Belly Dance, they were dancing in close, small quarters, right? They were dancing in cafes, Cafe Istanbul, Amira, places like that. And often the dancers were fairly close together. So the hand floreo and let's say a tuck-seam is definitely layered in a very specific way, because if you can't see the dancer's hips, you can see the dancer's hand. And so you know exactly where the hips are based off of where the hand position is. Yeah. Or if you can't see the hand, you can hopefully see the hips. So you can definitely see one or the other. And so the hand floreo or the hips, they're synced together so that you can easily tell what's happening in the group. The same thing goes with the body wave. When you add Floreos onto the body wave, they're very distinct. There's one full Floreo for one body wave, and there's a very beautiful defined moment. I really need to get a little bit back. So there's this really beautiful defined moment with the body waves and the hand Floreos, so that if you maybe can't see, maybe you can only see my upper hand, you at least know where my body is in the Floreos. So pretty cool stuff. So they're basically also, not only are they beautiful, but they're just beautiful hand signals to help our dancers follow us a little bit easier. Hi, Heidi. So let me know if you have any questions so far. Definitely, I could pretty much spend an hour on just hand Floreos and then linking them into even just the tuck-seam. So today we're just kind of getting into some nitty-gritty details that people might not know, like the less common known facts of hand Floreos. So I wanted to get into a little bit of anatomy because I very much love to know why things are the way that they are. And if you read my blog post or my newsletter this week on yesterday, then you'll understand why. I love that inner 3-year-old to ask the question of why everything that I'm doing in life and dance, why? So when I found anatomy and I started really diving into how we're built, how we move, why we move the way that we move, it really opened my eyes to dance and how to find more range of motion and how to help other people find more range of motion, because understanding body mechanics and how we can all be different, super, super cool and really important. So this is Bonita. For those of you that haven't met Bonita before, it's nice to meet you. So let's talk a little bit just about the elbow and the lower arm and the wrist. So the elbow is a hinge joint, right? So a hinge joint means that if you think about a door, it just kind of goes open and closed. The elbow doesn't rotate. Anytime you see the arm rotate, it's happening actually from the shoulder. Anytime you see the wrist rotate, it's happening either from the shoulder or it's happening at the 2 bones in the forearm. So really important to note, because if you, we pay a lot of attention to our elbows and our style of dance. So it's important to know how these joints move, what's actually moving if you want something to have a little more range of motion, right? If you want your elbows to lift up a little bit more, it's actually not about your elbows, it's about your shoulder joint. So really important to know. So in our lower arm, we have 2 bones. We have the radius, which is the bone, I think about it as like, that's rad. It's the bone that runs along the thumb side of the forearm. And then we have the ulna. And you can see that the radius isn't really, it's all really one thing, but I'm gonna say for the sake of just today's conversation, it's not really attached, so to speak, to the elbow, right? So the ulna is what's hinging with the elbow joint, but the radius is actually able to kind of move in a way that it flips over the ulna, right? We all have a different amount of how much we can actually move our forearm. So if you just kind of stabilize your bicep for a minute, your upper arm for a moment, and you just kind of rotate at the forearm, now you are a little more familiar with how that moves. What's making that rotation? It's not the elbow, it's not the shoulder. Here, it's the radius kind of rotating over, if you will, the ulna. So what is interesting about this, and this is, we're getting super, super detailed here, but I want to help people with a couple of different areas. So if you think about that and you look at it for a second, let me get out of the way so you can see what's happening for a second. Come on, lighting. Then you can see that that radius is kind of rotating over the ulna. And if you look, it kind of changes how the forearm looks, yeah? So if I do that from here, it almost looks like my elbow is bending more when I do a hand floreo, but it's really not about the elbow bending anymore. It's about the way that the bones work in the forearm. So what we often see in movements that have hand floreos, whether it's the toxine with a hand floreo, the body wave with a hand floreo, the wraparound turn with a hand floreo, we often see this like really a lot of bending and straightening of the elbow. I'm exaggerating, but hopefully you see what I mean. We see a lot of exaggerating of the bending and straightening of the elbow. So I think that we're just working a little too hard. We want to keep everything nice and open. And so if we start bending the elbow more than we need to, we're going to close off that energy that's coming from the heart center. So it's really, really important. For me, what I think about is maintaining the same amount of bend in my elbow and just letting that hand floreo do its thing, right? So I'm really trying to keep the isolation in the forearm and the wrist. So if you just kind of take a look for a moment, see, it can look like I'm bending and straightening my elbow, but it's really all about that forearm. And what I mean by that is it kind of looks like I'm doing this, but really I'm not. I'm doing this. So when we're learning on video, it's super hard to really understand what's happening because that's what it can look like. But it's really all about what's happening in the forearm and why it, looks the way that it looks. Yeah, Lacey says, fantastic clarifications. It's a lot of detail. So if this is if you're not into all the detail and the anatomy and stuff, just forget about it. So that's the first thing that I wanted to share, just really kind of getting in touch with how the hand floreo even works, like what's even happening in the forearm and the wrist. The second thing I wanted to share today about the hand floreo, and chime in if you have questions or anything, but the second thing I wanted to share about the hand floreo was the range of motion in the wrist. And there's a lot of information about what's happening in the wrist, the bones, the muscles, the way that the hand moves. But what I want you to think about is our range of motion. Okay, next Tuesday I'm going to have a better camera angle. But our range of motion in our wrist is going to be different for everybody. And there's a couple things two terms that I like to use, compression and tension. And so if you just point your fingers down for a moment and you just gently kind of press your fingers towards you, you're probably going to feel a little tension, a little stretch along the top part of the hand. And everybody's going to have a different range of motion here. I know some people that can actually touch their fingers to their arm. That's going to be a matter of if you're built that way. Not everybody is, right? So at some point, you're not going to feel anything. It's just simply not going to go anymore, and that's compression. That means it doesn't matter how much you stretch. That's it. That's your range of motion. So you can have that with the fingers pointing down. You'll eventually find that compression. But the main part that I want to talk about is when our fingers are pointing up. So do you see how this is at a 90-degree angle? Not everybody can easily do that, or not even everybody can do that. I have to actually work pretty hard to create this 90-degree angle. Some people can actually create an even less of an angle between their fingers and their forearm. So just take a moment and kind of feel that out. You can definitely work on getting more range of motion if you can feel a little tension, right? A little stretch, maybe here. Feel that strengthening in the upper part of the forearm. So if you feel that, and if you kind of press and feel the tension, then you probably have some room to strengthen and open up this movement a little bit more. But at some point you're going to hit compression, right? It doesn't matter how much, for me and my body, it doesn't matter how much I stretch or how much I strengthen the muscles in my forearm, I'm never going to get my fingertips down to my radius and my ulna. It's just not going to happen. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is oftentimes what happens is people are so focused on getting this 90-degree angle that when they move their fingers, their elbow drops down. Yeah, because that's the only way they feel like they could get their full Floreo. So in our style of dance, posture definitely comes first. We don't want to compromise our posture to have our movement look like somebody else, right? We want to have the movement express itself in our own body shape, our own body type, our own abilities, and the way that we're built. So if you are doing your Floreo and you aren't quite able to get this full Floreo angle here in the wrist, just simply take your fingers forward a little bit. That will give you a little more range of motion so that you can complete your Floreo while still keeping your elbow lifted, okay? So when we teach the Floreo, we teach it as really pressing this palm forward and pulling the fingers back because we want that blooming effect, that Floreo, to happen in the hand. But it's just simply not available for everybody. So if you have a student that takes their fingers a little more forward, that's absolutely okay. The main range of motion that we're going for in the Floreo is to make a full circle, that full bloom. And just keep in mind that one hand might be a little different than the other. For instance, if you are right-handed dominant, you might have a little more strength in your right hand than you have in your left hand. So depending on injuries, depending on how we use our hands throughout the day, the strength in our forearm muscles are going to definitely determine what our Floreos look like and what our Floreos feel like. So a lot of information, a lot of detail, but these are just kind of the things that we don't get a chance to teach this in class, and it's not something that I would teach a very beginning level 1 student. So I go through this in my online fundamentals classes because those are open to pretty much more advanced level dancers. So we really get into the nitty gritty. And so I just wanted to share this information with you. I hope that it was helpful. I'll take a few questions if you all have any. Hi, Chrissy, it's good to see you on here. So while I'm waiting for any questions to come in or anything else you all want to talk about related to Floreos today, this is the first Tuesday Talks. I might change the name of that. But basically just coming on here live every Tuesday at noon, my time, Pacific time. Just kind of hanging out casually, sharing information about technique, maybe about a yoga posture that could be really helpful for a certain area of dance, maybe doing a breathing exercise or a meditation. Every week's going to be a little bit different. And I'm picking the topics based off of either requests, things that we've covered in classes recently that have been really fun or really eye-opening, things that maybe are going on in the world. So so that's why I'm here today, and I will absolutely take requests. So you're welcome to message me or comment below, and I will take some requests for future Tuesday Talks as well. If this Floreo class or this Floreo chat interested you, and you want to learn more, you want to learn exercises for your wrists, how to safely find more range of motion and more strength, some myofascial release, or basically like some kind of self-massage, as well as a very detailed technique of the Floreo and linking it together with other movements, Then there is a class on FCBDU for those of you that are members. It's called Floreos, Floreos, Floreos. And so you can take that, and it's pretty much, I think it's about a 30-minute class on just Floreos. And there's exercises and anatomy, a lot more anatomy than what I talked about today, and a lot more information. So there we go, our first Tuesday talks. I hope that you all enjoyed it. I always love coming on here and seeing friends from all around the world that maybe I haven't seen in a while, or I only see when I'm, teaching a class or something. So I really, really appreciate y'all joining me. I think that's it. I'm gonna go and get ready for spring training week 3. Today we are working on torso rotations. Chrissy says, I haven't even started the spring training yet. Sorry, it doesn't feel like spring, and I most definitely don't feel like training. I think I need a kick in the arse. That is okay, Chrissy. That course is gonna be there for you when you start to feel like it's spring, and you can always remember just chime in and listen to them if you're not feeling like dancing, and then one day you'll be like, I feel like it's spring, and I feel Deanna's online kick in the butt coming on. So then you can join in on those. So no problem, never feel any pressure for not dancing. I'm here to offer pressure if you want it. I'm here to offer you that kick in the butt if you want it, but also right now is not really the time to pressure anybody into showing up. They'll show up when they can and when they want to. So everybody has to kind of do their own thing, especially right now. Heidi says, love this. Thanks, Deanna. You are so welcome, Heidi. Happy late birthday. I think it was your birthday maybe last week. Thank you, Christine. Thanks for coming. Becca. Hi, Becca. Cindy says, great details. Thank you. Absolutely. Okay, I'll see many of you in my class. That's like in an hour. So I'm going to go have some lunch, and I will see you all for the next week's Tuesday talks. We'll have a whole different topic. Okay, bye.